Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sasha and we're talking about all the books I managed to read in January and some of the books I DNF'd in January because one of my goals for 2026 is to DNF more books. Because I had a huge reading slump in 2025, which I've talked about quite a few times on the channel. It was a combination of brain chemicals not doing their thing and me needing some medication provided by a doctor with a prescription. Okay, I'm not a medical doctor, this is not medical advice, but yes, so had a really bad reading slump in 2025. And I'm trying so hard to not let it happen again. And I think one of the best ways I can do that is to DNF more books, which I used to take really personally. I felt like I wasn't giving the book a fair chance. I felt like I wasn't giving the author a fair chance. I felt like I was letting myself down because I was starting something and not finishing something. And that is like a pet peeve, an open wound of mine. I don't like doing that. But I realized that the longer I try and finish this book, the more that I just don't want to read at all. So then I stop reading and I never finish that book, and then I don't read anything else because I feel immense guilt about trying to read anything else. So you know what? We're just gonna DNF and move right along, because if we just keep reading, and by we I mean me, I just keep reading things that I like, the momentum, the energy, we're gonna keep moving forward. And especially because in January 2026, I had so many 5-star reads. Like, we're off to a freaking great start for this year, okay? I started off with, could maybe be one of my favorite books of the year, we'll find out, The Starving Saints by Caitlin Sterling. It's 344 pages, published in 2025. I am looking down at my own blog to read you these stats because I don't have this memorized. It is fiction, fantasy, historical, horror, LGBTQIA+. It was amazing. I'm just gonna give you, this review is gonna be just as chaotic as the written one, so bear with me. Probably more chaotic because I am a little more chaotic in, this is not in person, but like in person versus typing. Typing, things get filtered much more from my brain to my fingers. Brain to mouth, less filtering. There's less space, you know? There's way more space. Filtering capabilities. I don't know. That's a theory. I just made it up right now. And it proves my point because this is a crazy conversation we're having. Anyway, The Starving Saints is historical, gothic, horror, cannibalism, sapphic. It should be the next Nosferatu, Frankenstein, Dracula, The Starving Saints. Like, that is the path of the horror films we've been getting recently. I am waiting on bated breath. Is that the right saying? I am waiting so impatiently for Dracula because other countries already got it. I've seen so many clips of it on the internets. We don't get it yet, and I need to see it. I think it's the same day that the Stray Kids movie is coming out, so I gotta look into it and ask my boyfriend. Maybe we'll go for Valentine's Day. Maybe we'll do that. I can't wait to see it. Anyway, this book needs to be the next gothic horror movie. It played in my mind like a movie. It is wild. It was wonderful. It is graphic and gory and ew. And it's kind of great because you know how when you read an older classic gothic book, there's a lot of misogyny and icky patriarchy and sometimes homophobia and just like things that in 2026 we don't enjoy anymore. Okay? And yeah, this book has those same old-timey gothic horror vibes, but not the gross icky ones. It's all the good things of 2026, but all of the good like gothic horror things of yonder years. I don't know. I'm gonna move on. I could rave about this book forever. So good. Up next is Brimstone by Callie Hart. This is 660 pages, published in 2025, fiction, fantasy, romance, book 2 in a series. We'll talk about that next. Actually, I forgot. I was going to say a little spoiler. I was going to jump ahead. Not really a spoiler for the series, but anyway. This is book 2 in the series. I did read Quicksilver and then immediately read Brimstone, and personally, I think that worked out better for me because I did read this for a book club I'm part of, and a lot of the girly pops who read this, like, after waiting, you know, they read Quicksilver when that was all, Quicksilver, and then they waited, and then this came out, and then they read this, and they were like, what the hell is this? You know, they were really confused, really taken aback. There were so many great discussions at the book club, and reasons, like, why people liked it. I was one of the only 5 stars. I was like, I will not be bullied and peer pressured into lowering my rating. This was a 5-star read for me, and let me tell you why, and boy oh boy did I tell them, and I'll tell you right now. I have autistic pattern recognition, which makes fantasy nowadays hit or miss for me. I either see the pattern and the formula and I'm still like, wow, this was still so fun, or I see the pattern and the formula and I'm like, oh my god. You know? So it just really depends. Like, Phantasma was one where I knew what was going to happen on the first page. And that's not me bragging or me being like, I knew it was going to be on the page. Like, genuinely, that is what happened, and I still loved that book. Also, One Dark Window, I knew on page 27 what was going to happen. And my book club had the book. We opened it to page 27. I read the line and I said, this is when I knew XYZ. And they were all shook. And I was like, it's my brain. I'm not trying to do it. It's just my brain. So sometimes it works. Like One Dark Window, even though I knew, I had a great time with it. This book also, no formula. So chaos. So many plot holes. So many unknowns, so many new things. We were just thrown in and thrown out constantly, and I had a great time. I could not have guessed at any point what was ever going to happen next. And I live for that. That was so good. And that's why a lot of people didn't like it, because they were like, none of this made sense. And like, for sure. I agree it didn't make sense, but that's why I liked it. And also, I argued that I don't think book 2 needs to make sense. If this was the finale, if this was the last book in the series, yeah, we needed answers. It's not. It's the middle. We're in the middle, okay? I don't expect things to be tied up in a bow and finished off and all. No. I need the chaos. I'm thriving on the chaos. That was this book. The other thing people pointed out, which I didn't even consider because I didn't even really notice necessarily, was that they felt like Kingfisher totally became a different person in book 2. This is not a spoiler, but they felt like his character was completely different, and that's because book 1 was 1 point of view and book 2 is 2 points of view, which really changes things. So something to keep in mind. I had a great time. We're going to move on to the next thing that I read, which was an audiobook, and it's Kingfisher's Point of View by Callie Hart. It was 2 hours, 15 minutes, fiction, fantasy, romance book 1.1 in a series. You do need to read this. I'm a girl who likes to skip the novellas and the in-betweeners because the extra chapters, I could take it or leave it. And this one, you gotta take it and you gotta read it because I read this at the same time that I was reading Brimstone because this was like my car book. I'd put this on and drive somewhere and then I'd come home and I had the physical book of Brimstone. So this has so many nuggets of info that if you feel like what the heck is happening in Brimstone, this would have helped you. And you really do need to do both, okay? The audiobook's wonderful. It's Kingfisher's voice. Great, okay? I can't convince you in any other way to listen to it and to read it other than that. And also it's just going to help with your experience with Brimstone. So whether you read it after Quicksilver, during Brimstone, after Brimstone, just make sure you read it. Not before Quicksilver. For sure after Quicksilver. Up next is the January book pick for my book club. You can read with us. We read God Killer by Hannah Canner. I still don't know how to pronounce their last name. 300 pages, published in 2023, fiction, fantasy, LGBTQI+. Also has amazing disability representation in this book. We have a main character who is an amputee and has a prosthetic limb and is like a warrior, amazing, what's the name? Mercenary type person, like just crazy. All the things that they were able to do, which is why I thought this disability representation was so good. Because most of the time, you just forget that this character has that disability, and it was just incredible. I will say I had to rush, and that's my fault, while reading this book, because I was like, I hadn't finished it by the day of our meeting, and I was reading my little heart out trying to finish it. So I rushed, which made me not enjoy it as much. I think I would have had a better time if I could have sat with it a little bit longer. Despite that, I did pick up book 2 and 3 from the library immediately when I returned this one, because that ending. I'm just so nosy. I have to know what's happening next. I have to know what's gonna happen with these characters. And sometimes I don't feel that way. Sometimes I couldn't care less. I'm just like, this was a great book, but I don't need to know anymore. You know, I don't feel that way with God Killer. God Killer, I was like, it was okay. I liked Nettle and Bone actually better. Oh my gosh. Now I'm thinking of Kingfisher from Quicksilver, not the author. Anyway, I liked Nettle and Bone, which we read for this club in November, and I kept comparing them back and forth, which I think did this book a disservice, because they were similar enough in terms of like fantasy and the themes, and Nettle and Bone had more like women empowerment and feminism and those sort of ideas in it, and this didn't have that as much. Anyway, I don't know where I'm going with this conversation. I still decided to pick up books 2 and 3, haven't read them yet, but very excited to. Up next is an audiobook I listened to before the coffee gets cold. I'm just really not going to try and pronounce the author's name because I will get it wrong, and I apologize for not being able to pronounce it, for not having done research ahead of time to learn how. This audiobook was 6 hours, 52 minutes. It was published in 2015. Fiction, literary, magical realism. I've just seen this book so many places, on so many lists, just on so many bookshelves, on like bookstores and things, that once again, I felt FOMO. And I said, I just need to read this and know what I think about it, because it's just everywhere. And I thought it would be like a really cozy type of book to get into the new year with, and instead it's quite emotional, and you can take that in a positive or negative way. I guess it really depends on your headspace going into this and what you're trying to get out of it. This is a book about people. This is a book about relationships between people, whether familial relationships, romantic relationships, friendships. It's all about relationships and the concept of time, and the concept of if you can go back in time, even though you know it will not in any shape or form change the present or the future, would you go back for mere moments with your loved one? Interesting concept. Very interesting concept. Very emotional. Definitely not what I thought I was getting. But yeah, I don't know. That's where I'm at. Up next, another 5-star read. We're crushing it. It's Taurus Season by Brynn Weaver. This is 376 pages, published 2025. Fiction, mystery, romance, thriller, dork. Okay? It's 2 serial killers maybe falling in love while trying to kill each other. It's fun. It's really fun, but it's also pretty gory. This book I got from the library, and then I was like halfway through it, and I was like, this is a 5-star read, so I got it at the bookstore. I made my boyfriend buy it for me. He's very nice. Thank you, boyfriend. And the sprayed edges are literally just body parts. Images of cut and bleeding with bones sticking out body parts. it's like kind of cute on the book, but you need to like take that into consideration if you don't enjoy murder and cutting people into pieces in a fictional setting or otherwise. This is not going to be for you, because that happens quite often. I did laugh out loud reading this book, which I don't know what that says about me, but listen, there's obviously a market for this, because this is the second series Brynne Weaver has come out with in terms of romance involving sort of murders and things. I am absolutely going back to read the Butchered and Blackbird series as soon as I can. My library did not have book 1 available, because I'm guessing with the publication of this book, people like me are now going back to read the original series. I don't think there's any overlap in characters or setting or anything like that, but I don't know for sure. I also loved this because tourist season, like it implies, it's in a touristy town. So there's a lot of gimmicky, touristy things. I live in Orlando, okay? I'm quite familiar with a tourist trap or two. You know what I'm saying? So this book was just primed and ready to be a book for me. And it did leave off on a cliffhanger, which I wasn't expecting. I've been so used to romances ending with the main couple and then book 2 is a different couple that I was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute, when the book ended. So that's really exciting. Another 5-star read. Up next, we have a book I read for a book club I am a part of. It's We Who Will Die by Stacia Stark. This is 432 pages, published 2025. Very difficult book to get hold of. It's fiction, fantasy, romance. I've had this on hold at my library since like the first week of December is when we voted on this to read it for... No, that can't be true. First week of January, because we're reading it for February. There we go. I've had this book on hold for many weeks, and the library just never got it until a week ago. The bookstore still doesn't have it. So I don't know if it's the winter storms. I don't know what's going on with publishing right now. This book is challenging. I don't know if it's available where you are. Anyway, this is a Roman-inspired vampire fantasy romance. That sounded great. And that's why I voted for this book. I voted to read this one. So I was really excited when it won. And then I was less excited when I started reading it. I did have to start with the audiobook because I was panicking that this physical book was never going to come in and we were going to have book club and I would not have read it in time. So I did start with the audiobook, didn't vibe much with the narrators. So the narrators were kind of annoying, and also the plot was annoying me. So we had two annoying factors sort of competing for my attention. So then the physical copy came into my library and I was like, I'm going to try and just read the physical copy. And I had a much better time. I'm very particular when it comes to audiobooks. They either really work or they really don't. And there's kind of no in between for me. So once I was reading the physical copy, then it was just the plot that was annoying me, but it wasn't like double annoyance at the book itself. So I had a little bit of a better time as I finished it. However, this is quite formulaic. It's a fantasy, romance, bada bing bada boom. Like, no one had a mystery identity for me as the reader. There were no surprises for me as the reader. The whole time I was just like, okay. Like, but the writing was so good, which is so interesting. Like, the plot followed a formula. That was kind of boring. The writing was really good. There was never a time where I was like, that's a weird sentence. Well, there were a couple times where it was very repetitive. Actually, I take that back. I'm now having flashbacks of repetitive things and me being like, this is kind of weird. But other than that, the writing was really good. So take that however you will. I think, what did I say in this? I had a good ending sentence. I said, however, the writing itself was very well done, as was the plot, except, formula. For someone just getting into fantasy or someone who doesn't mind the repetitive nature of the genre, this is a book many will enjoy. I'll leave you with that. There were 2 books in January I did not finish. So we've talked about all the books I read in January. Go me. The 2 books I decided to DNF. The first one is Finding Grace by Loretta Rothschild. This was for a book club I'm a part of that I was not feeling well and couldn't attend. I had read 50% of this book and then didn't attend the book club and then was like, well, now I don't want to finish it. This book is 336 pages, published in 2025, fiction, contemporary, literary. This first chapter is shocking and horrifying and extremely upsetting and sort of tainted or clouded the entire rest of the reading experience for me. And that was intentional, and I know that. But it didn't make it better for me as the reader. And this ended up being a romance ultimately, while also sort of just like a discussion of people and grief and what that looks like in a community. And I really kind of didn't want to see how the romance was going to pan out. I didn't want to know what was going to happen next. I was only reading this so that I could discuss it with my book club when we got there. I did not want to finish it. And so when I ended up not feeling well, not being able to go, I was pretty relieved that I was like, oh, DNF. So that was my first DNF of the year. My second DNF was Immaculate Conception by Ling Ling Huang. This is 289 pages, published 2025, fiction, horror, literary. We all know by now I'm trying to get into horror. I'm trying to read it as much as possible because I think it's my new favorite genre. On paper, this is a book I would probably really enjoy, which is what I said in my review because I just read that word for word. However, it felt too smart for me. Like, I think I got 20 pages into it and I was like, oh my god. Like, I really would have needed maybe a full month to read just this book and nothing else, to really take it in. It's set in academia, and boy oh boy, are these characters way smarter than me. Every other word, I was like, I've never seen that word before. I've never seen that word before. And like context clues, it's not like I couldn't follow along, but I was just like, god damn, like I ought to look up all of these words. Like this is gonna take me forever to read. And so even though I think the concept overall is something I would have really enjoyed, I just didn't have the time required to sit with this book and the content and the language. It's too smart for me. And I'm not ashamed to admit that. I didn't know most of the words in those 20 pages I read. I was like, whoa, what are we doing? So that was interesting. And that was a very quick DNF. That's maybe the quickest I've ever DNF'd anything in my life. Because I was just like, I don't have time for this. I have 100 books stripped out from the library right now that I gotta read. So that one went back pretty quickly. That's the end of my ranting and raving for my January reading wrap up. What did you read in January? Did you have any 5-star reads? Did you have things you DNF'd? What are some of your reading goals for the year? I would love to hear it down below in the comments. You can follow me on Storygraph and on my blog where I'm going to try and be better. Crossing my fingers, not because this is a lie, but because I want to be better, and I'm crossing my fingers I will be, about posting my mini reviews once a month instead of having to do 7 in December. That was wild. Yeah, I'm going to try and be better about that this year. So 1 month down, 11 to go. I did have to just mentally count in my brain what 12 minus 1 was. So that's how my day's going. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you had a good time. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay warm if you are in a place where it's cold, or stay cool if you're in a place where it's hot. I'll see you guys next time. Happy reading. Goodbye. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye.